All right, guys, welcome back to the Outlet Pass. We're back after a bit of a hiatus to talk about all things NBA playoffs. Today, we're going to be previewing all the first round matchups, and it's just going to be me and John today, but that doesn't mean it's going to be any less quality. So, John, what series do you want to talk about first?
I think we're gonna run through all these series and just kind of talk about it. Let's just start with the 1-8 matchup in the East, and that'll be the Wizards and Sixers.
Yeah,
Yeah. So some initial thoughts on that. Obviously, Washington. I mean, that Westbrook Beal duo pretty much single-handedly got them here. They don't have a couple of their first round picks out. Thomas Bryant, the starting center's out. Just finding a way. Westbrook kind of on that tear at the end of the year. They had to get in through the play-in game. They're kind of an example of how the plan can work. I mean, probably wouldn't have tried as hard if the 10 seed wasn't available, and because they were out of it in early April and they managed to find a way in. But I mean, in Philly, no one after last year, people were saying, should they blow it up? Should they blow up the Simmons and B duo? In those two now, I mean, they're look. That looks like they made the right choice. Doc Rivers there as the coach. I mean, they're going to be a threat, but yeah, I feel like Philly's gonna win this one though. Realistically, I don't think we can spend too much time on that. I mean, Westbrook and Westbrook and Beal, they're great players, but Philadelphia is just a complete team. I mean, they have shooters, they have defenders, and star power. I don't know. What do you think?
John, honestly, I think the Sixers are going to win. But I think the Wizards are going to give them a run. I think this is going to be a tougher series than people think. I think that Philly is going to come out. I don't think they're going to take the Wizards all that seriously. And I think the series is going to go longer than it should, like you mentioned, because of the star power of the Wizards. I think that, honestly, I think the Beal Westbrook duo is better than the Simmons and Embiid duo. I think Embiid's probably the best player on the floor, but I think the Beal Westbrook duo is just so good, so talented. But you're right. I mean, Philly's just too complete of a team to lose this series. So, it's going to be tough, but I got to go Sixers.
Yeah, I do think definitely the Beal and Westbrook will definitely steal a couple games here and there. I'd say it was Sixers and six,
Yeah, I like that.
but I just can't see a world in which the Sixers get bounced in the first round after the year they've had.
Yep,
So I say Sixers and six.
I like it. I like it.
All right, and for the next series, I want to talk about the 2-7 matchup in these Celtics versus Nets. Obviously, we're both Celtics fans,
Yep.
but I think as both Celtics fans and watching this team most of the year, I feel like we can confidently say this is going to be a pretty quick series.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I mean, it just especially with Brown out too now, like you can't even make a case maybe they get hot. I mean, just the inconsistency of this team, like they don't seem locked in. Like if you would just watch them in the plan, that was not representation of how they've played all year. Like if they can play like that, they can maybe just have to play for it a little bit. But I mean, they gotta. It's not the only way this is even interesting is if the Nets just kind of check out and the Celtics are able to like kind of just take advantage of that. But I feel like in the playoffs they're gonna be locked in, and I just
Yeah.
think I don't know. I just don't see it happening. I think we'll get some great moments from Jason Tatum, but I think it's going to be tough for a lot of people to beat Kyrie, KD, and Harden. I mean, as long as if they can just make all those egos work, that's they'll definitely come out of the East, and we'll see about the West. But I don't know. I think Celtics get one, just because either Tatum will go off, or the Nets can't just check out for a game or two. But I'd say Nets in five.
Yeah, I mean, more of the same here. I mean, we've seen it all year. The Celtics, they haven't played a complete, stretch of basketball in a while now. They've had good moments, they've had good games, but they haven't been able to put together a 7-game stretch, with the gameplay that would be required to knock off a team like the Nets. I mean, the defensive lapses, the stagnant offense, the lack of hustle. It's too much. You know, they're already by far the lesser talented team, and they're down a man. So, John, honestly, I hate to be a pessimist, but I could see this being a sweep.
I could as well, honestly, but I just honestly, it might just be being optimistic too, giving them a
Yeah,
game. But
no, I hear you.
I just, I don't know. I feel like they are inconsistent, but like you said, they're inconsistent, so which means they can be good.
Yeah.
On a given night, they can be a good team.
Mm-hmm.
And they've done it this year. They've beaten some decent teams.
Well, they have.
But I don't know. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah.
Anyway, in the next series, the 6 vs 3, the Miami Heat versus Milwaukee Bucks, two teams that met last year in the bubble, and the Heat obviously pulled the upset there. Bucks got Drew Holiday in the offseason. And what do you think about this one?
I think the Bucks are gonna win this one. I think, and I mentioned this in a previous video. I think the Heat kind of caught lightning in a bottle in the bubble. Yes, they're a good team, but they just don't have the top end talent to beat a team like Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee's going to come into this series locked in. They're going to know after last year that the Heat, you can't play with them. And I think as much as Jimmy Butler and Bam are going to give them trouble, I don't see a world in which the Bucks lose this series. What do you think, John?
I'm gonna have to disagree with you there.
Really?
I actually am gonna take the Heat in this series, and I'm gonna get a lot of heat for this probably. I
Okay.
just think, and I agree with you. I do kind of think it was a little bit lightning in a bottle. Realistically, they might not have. Most cases, I feel like they probably don't go to the finals last year. I just think they're a good matchup for the Bucks, and I think that's what it comes down to. I don't think they're making another run to the finals, but I think against this team, and Milwaukee's honestly better prepared. I think they'll do better in this series than they did last year. But I still think if Giannis tries to drive, they're gonna have that wall set up. I mean, you like to think they can just kick it out the shooters. They don't work last time. That perimeter defense is still pretty solid. I mean, they added Trevor Ariza. He's another veteran guy there. I mean, Oladipo's out, but which that's tough because he would have been another guy who could help. But I mean, they still have good shooters. They got veterans. And also, while they might not be able to recreate what they did last year, I think the veteran leadership, like just that intensity in the playoffs is going to be something that I think that they're going to really be able to use that. I think this goes the full distance, and the Heat just pull it out. I think they're a grittier team, and also, what have the Bucks done to suggest that they're gonna be ready for the playoffs? Every year, who have they really beaten in the playoffs with Giannis there? I mean, the best team they've beaten is a dysfunctional Celtics team. The Magic even gave them some problems last year. I just think come playoff time, even with Budenholzer's been a better coach this year too. They've shown more of a willingness to adjust. Like they've had different defensive schemes this year, so I think defensively they'll be better. But I just don't think offensively they're going to be able to produce enough against the Heat.
Yeah. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. It's a tough matchup, but I don't know. I just am putting my faith in Giannis. I think he's gonna be able to drag them through this one. I think Drew Holiday is gonna be a key to this series too. I think him defensively is gonna be great. I think he's gonna be able to really help smother some of those shooters. And I think he's just a smarter player than Eric Bledsoe. We know about Bledsoe. He melts in the playoffs. We saw it when the Bucks played the Celtics a couple years ago. We saw it when the Bucks played the Raptors 2 years ago. And I think that difference, the leadership Holiday brings, like you said, John, Budenholzer's willingness to adjust. I think it's just going to be too much for the Heat to overcome.
I don't think Holiday will make a difference, but at the same time, like they were being pretty easily last year.
Yeah.
And I think based on the matchup, that wasn't a huge coincidence. I don't think he'll make enough of a difference.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait and see on this one.
Yep, I guess. So I guess the next series we're going to talk about the 5-seeded Hawks versus the 4-seeded Knicks. And I'd say this is probably the most even series in the entire first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think with the Knicks, they obviously a big story this year. No one thought they'd be good. With Tom Thibodeau, Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, a lot of guys playing well for this team. And they're here. And the Hawks just Trae Young doing his thing. A lot of high round picks, and they're finally paying dividends.
Yep.
So, what are your thoughts on this series?
Honestly, I think that the Knicks have been such a shock this year. Julius Randle, I mean, he's been incredible. Derrick Rose has seen a bit of a renaissance. I mean, he's already been doing that, but he's been playing great for the Knicks. I think not having Mitchell Robinson is really going to hurt. I think that their interior defense is going to be a little weaker, than it could be, than it has been for most of this year. And I think Atlanta's going to be able to take advantage of that. I think the Hawks are going to win because I think they have the best player in the series in Trae Young. And they have John Collins, and they have tons of young talent. But this one could go either way. I think this is going 7. I'm going to give the edge to the Hawks, but this is a toss-up in my eyes.
Yeah, I do think Atlanta's going to win as well. And I'm looking at they had the best player in the series. I mean, Julius Randle, he's had an amazing year. I mean, I don't even know if we can really say he's been the best. I think overall, he's probably going to have a better career. You can make a case that Julius Randle's the best player in the series, but I think Atlanta overall, I think they just have a deeper team. I mean, they're more experienced too. I mean, they got Lou Williams, Danilo Gallinari, guys who have made the playoffs before. Clint Capella, he's on that Rockets team that went to the conference final.
Yep.
And so many shooters, so many great defenders. I mean, they might not have the overall elite level talent, but there's not a ton of weaknesses on this team. And I think the Knicks, Nerlens Noel, he's had a great year. I mean, Taj Gibson, solid players, but they're not going to be able to. I feel like it's just not going to get it done in the playoffs if they're the guys you're relying on to give you a lot of minutes.
Yep.
So I'd say the Hawks in 7 games win this series. I mean, the Knicks, this will be great development for some of the young guys, and they proved a lot this year. But I just don't see a world. I can see a world where they win, but I just don't. I'm going to pick the Hawks here.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that one. So looks like we're gonna move on to the Western Conference. Do you want to start with the 1-8 matchup here?
Yep, this one will be the Memphis Grizzlies and the Utah Jazz. And I mean, kudos to the Grizzlies for making it here. I mean, I think everyone thought it was going to be the Warriors.
I certainly did.
Yeah, they proved a lot of people wrong there. I mean, so I think this series, obviously, the issue with Donovan Mitchell's injury. I mean, he expected back for game 1. He could miss it, could not. I mean, we'll see on that front, but I do think Utah's gonna win the series, but I don't think it's gonna come as easy as people think. I think the Grizzlies are actually gonna take 2 games on them because I mean Utah, they've had a great year, but I think we see a lot of these teams in the playoffs that have a great regular season, do really well, but they just don't have that top end guy who's gonna really just take over. I mean, Mitchell's a great player, but he's not I wouldn't call him a top 10 player.
No.
So I mean, I think they'll get through this series, but I think Memphis is gonna give them a lot. I mean, Dylan Brooks, he's been amazing for them. One of the most underrated players in the league. I think he'll be able to defend Mitchell if he plays. I mean, John Moran, he kind of took over in that game yesterday. I mean, I think he'll give him problems. Jaren Jackson's back. Valanciunas had a great year. They got some good shooters. But I think the Jazz, realistically, if they're gonna win a title, this is the year to do it. And I think they realize that with how good the West is. I think they're gonna take care of business here.
Yeah, I think the Jazz are gonna win this series for sure. I mean, you bring up some good points though. I don't really trust them in the playoffs. This isn't as much of an issue against Memphis because they're not a great team, but I feel like Rudy Gobert, I do worry about him getting played off the floor in some situations, with his perimeter defense and his lack of spacing in the offense. But I think the Jazz, honestly, even if Donovan Mitchell really doesn't play, I still think the Jazz win this one. I think they're too good. Memphis is too young, but it's just still a great season for Memphis just to get here. So
I mean, I'm not sure I'd worry about Gobert's perimeter getting played off the floor as much. Because I mean, first of all, the Grizzlies have like Jaren Jackson, Jonas Valanciunas, who they like to feature those two bigs a lot, and also he's a better perimeter defender than you give him credit for. There, I think. I mean, he's the reason wins Defensive Player of the Year award like pretty often. I mean, I know it's kind of a big man award, but like I think he can. I mean, he's got long arms. You get by him, he can still block it. I think I'm not worried about that. So I think, yeah, I think I just don't see a world where Memphis can really pull this off. So yeah, I'd say the Jazz in 6.
yep, I like that.
All right. Moving on to the 2-7 matchup. This is probably the series of the first round in the Phoenix Suns and the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers, obviously, with the LeBron and AD injuries, falling to the 7th seed, having to make it through the plan. This is an intriguing series. What do you think about this one?
I'm picking the Lakers in this one. I think that, I think they're honestly like the best 7 seed ever. Obviously, as you said, injuries are kind of the only reason they're this low to begin with. And I don't really trust the Suns. I think Chris Paul, as great as he is and as amazing of his job as he's done in helping turn this team around, I don't think you can rely on him as much in the playoffs. He's had meltdowns in the past. He's, only made it. It took him until his tenure in Houston to get out of the second round of the playoffs. And just overall, the Suns team is very inexperienced. And I think ultimately the Lakers' championship medal and their star power is going to lead them past the Suns. What do you think?
I don't think the Lakers are going to win the series, but I just think from Phoenix's perspective, I mean, Chris Paul, I mean, I kind of disagree. I think he is a winner. The way he plays, I don't think he's going to be afraid of the moment, and he never has been. But like, I just think like the Suns, if they don't, they have to win these. They got to get up 2-0. Like, I think the Lakers can get a game early. I think they'll probably just settle in, and then makes kind of in trouble. So I think if it's 1-1 going back to Staples Center, I don't see a world where the Suns can win this. They gotta jump on LA early, where they're still kind of rusty, still not really fully into it. The Lakers kind of have some time to build up that chemistry. I think they're just a vastly better team with LeBron and AD. I mean, that kind of just speaks for itself.
Yeah,
Great season by the Suns. I feel they kind of got screwed over with the seeding. I mean,
a little bit, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it just there's a little part of me that like wants to like believe in them, but just I can't see a world in which the Lakers go out in the first round.
No,
Much as I think we each love that, we can count on Alton for it. But
it's not happening.
yeah, so I'd say Lakers in 6, and I think it'll be an entertaining series. Great, can't wait to watch those games. But
No, yeah.
yeah, I'd say Lakers get the job done.
Yeah, I agree.
Then the 3-6 matchup in the Western Conference, the Portland Trailblazers and the Denver Nuggets. Should be a lot of offense in the series.
Yeah.
What are your initial thoughts?
Um, this is an interesting one. I think.
I mean, obviously no Jamal Murray, so
Yeah, I
a
mean
huge factor.
I think that's gonna put a cap on how far the Nuggets can go. Honestly, though, I still think the Nuggets are gonna win this one. I think Michael Porter Jr. has been amazing this year. He's really stepped up. I believe he's a finalist for Most Improved Player, and he deserves it. He's been, really huge for them. I think Jokic is gonna. Well, I don't know if he's gonna win it, but I would put him in for MVP. He's had an incredible season. And I really don't think that Portland's going to be able to handle all that defensively. They're not a great defensive team to begin with. I think Nurkic is solid down there, but I think he's going to struggle with the passing and range of Jokic. And then when he comes out, if they have to put Enes Kanter in and play him big minutes, it's going to be a problem because he is not a very good defender, especially in the pick and roll. So based on that, I'm going with Denver. What are your thoughts, John?
Yeah, I think Denver's going to win this series, and I think definitely Portland could win this series. I mean, but I just think the Nuggets. Blazers, their whole game plan is going to be we have to outscore Denver, which I definitely think that they can do that a few times, honestly. But I just think Nuggets. I mean, even without Murray, they've played pretty well. Jokic, he'd be my pick for MVP as well. I think the way he commands that team, it's the way he plays. I mean, Aaron Gordon's been a solid pickup. Michael Porter Jr. He's had like kind of a renaissance here this year. I mean, people kind of thought he was after that first couple of years, he wasn't doing great. In the bubble and this year, he's kind of really shown off a little bit. It just defensively, I think they're gonna at least be able to do some stuff on Portland. They're gonna be games where the Blazers can't just outscore them. And I don't trust that team. I mean, they basically play three guards in Lillard, McCollum, and Powell. I think that's gonna may help them on offense, but I think that's gonna be somewhere where they're just not gonna have the length or physicality to really deal with Denver, who's a pretty big team. So I think that this is gonna be a series where I think Denver wins. I mean, I'd say 6 or 7 games. I'd say it's about where I'd see this going. But I think Denver does get it done in the end.
Sounds good to me. So moving on to the final playoff series we're covering today, the 4-5 matchup in the West, Clippers Mavericks. This is an interesting one. John, I know you're pretty high on the Clippers. Tell us why.
Yeah, I think the Clippers. I think they've really adjusted their roster well since the bubble last year. I think that one of the reasons they lost last year is they didn't have a lot of like ball movement. It was kind of just a lot of like isolation, like your turn, my turn, and that doesn't really work out. Well, in the offseason, Montrezl Harrell's gone. They replaced him with a defensive big and Serge Ibaka, who doesn't need to take as many shots. He can help to also space the floor a little bit more. They got added Luke Kennard. They got rid of Lou Williams and they run Roy John Rondo. So I really just think with Rondo there, and we've all seen Rondo in the playoffs. He takes it up a notch there. Won a championship last year. He'll be someone who can facilitate the ball, have that be his main focus. And then, of course, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, those offensive players. And then Patrick Beverly. Every championship team needs that guy who's going to like be grinded out, kind of like the Draymond Green-esque player. And I think Patrick Beverly is the guy for them. And I think they should draw well around the team. In Dallas, I mean, I like what they've done. They added some good wings, but and I think they're definitely building towards something. But at least I don't trust Porzingis. He's just to stay healthy or to really perform. And I mean, Luka can't do this by himself. I mean, he has some like decent players, but no one who I really consider a co-star other than Porzingis, and he's kind of shaky. I think Luka. I mean, he's so good. He'll honestly get them out to a few wins, but I think Clippers win this in 6 games. I'd say.
Yeah. I have some interesting thoughts on this one. I am very hesitant to give the Clippers a ringing endorsement here, mostly because of their meltdown last year. And I understand they've got some new faces in there. I understand, playoff Rondo is going to provide some great leadership for them, but I think that the Mavericks are really going to give them trouble. I mean, they matched up last year in the bubble, and the Mavs stole a couple games on them. And I think that was a bit of a precursor to their eventual loss to the Nuggets in the second round. I think if Porzingis and Luka are on, I think the Mavericks can win. However, when I say they need to be on, they need to be like 40 points a game on. They need to be really, really good because the Clippers, they are a very deep team and they've got, high-end talent with the best of them. So I am going to pick the Clippers. I'm going to pick them in 7, but I'm putting them on upset alert.
I'm not too worried about that. This is where kind of we disagree. I just really, really think that the Clippers are a good team, and I don't know. I just like this team a lot. I feel like I think they've made the exact right changes to this team, and I think they're ready to go compete for a title.
Yeah, I mean, they have the talent to do it. They do. They just got to put it all together in a complete run.
All right, before we leave, I just want to get your finals prediction.
My finals prediction, that's an interesting one. I'm going to go Lakers Nets, and I'm picking the Lakers. I think the Lakers are, it's a little chalk. Well, not chalk, but it's a little boring. But I think LeBron and AD, best duo in the league. And there's no one I trust more in the big moments than those two guys. So,
Ratings would be through the roof if that happened. I'm sure the NBA would love that. But
yeah.
I'm gonna go Nets, but I'm gonna go with the Clippers, and I think the Clippers are gonna get it done this year. And I know a lot of people, and I mean a lot, are gonna hate, not gonna like that pick. But I just think the way they've built their team, I think the Lakers, I mean, they haven't played together a lot. It's been a weird year for them. I think they don't really have that target on their back to win like the Clippers do. The motivation might not be there. I think the Clippers, people think they're chokers because of one season last year. Kawhi Leonard won a championship. Rondo's won a championship. Serge Ibaka's won a championship. Like, they brought in the right guys, I think, to get this done. I think Paul George will be motivated after last year. And I just think I like this Clippers team a lot. I picked the Lakers at the beginning of the year, but I just think that the Clippers, I mean, just with everything they've done, I think they've really improved. The Nets, their problem. I feel like the Clippers do a better job of just staying checked in than the Nets, staying motivated.
Yeah.
And then the Clippers have that gritty attitude. I think the Nets still have to develop. So I'm going to take the Clippers to win over the Nets in the finals. That's it for today, I think. So I think we're gonna be posting our brackets on the Outlet Pass Instagram page. So go follow there. And yeah, as always, like and subscribe. Tell your friends, get family, get everyone to subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you next time.
All right, that's pretty good.
Yeah, end the video.